writer fans, my name is Katie and welcome back to my channel. So today I wanted to do a video about the different types of editing that's needed after you complete your manuscript. So currently I'm going through the editing stage with my novel Sparks Fly. I just finished an editorial assessment and I got really good feedback from that, and now I'm just reading through my manuscript again, going through everything with a fine-tooth comb again and getting it ready and prepared for the copy editing stage, which will be the next thing that I'll be doing for my manuscript. So I know that when I started out I wasn't sure exactly what type of editing would be needed for my manuscript. I thought that maybe if I read through it a couple hundred times and fix grammar and do spell checks, that would be enough to make my manuscript perfect. But through research, I realized that that was not the case. I would need to do a lot more to ensure that my manuscript is ready for the public's eye. So I just wanted to do a little video on that today, just to impart some knowledge about, what I found out through my research so far, about the type of editing that you'll definitely need after you complete your first draft of a manuscript to ensure that it's ready for the public eye. Alright, now, number one, which I find very helpful and I feel like it's very important, it's not a necessity, it's not like the make or break thing of your novel, but I'll definitely recommend this because it shines so much light on your manuscript and what is needed to be done. So the editorial assessment would be the first thing that I would recommend, especially for first-time writers. It points out a lot of things and a lot of errors that you've made, a lot of consistent things that you in your novel that's not necessary. It points out all of that. So an editorial assessment is pretty much an in-depth look into your manuscript, and it looks at pace, characterization, looks at a little bit of structure but not a lot. It also looks at the bigger picture, which is the main purpose of the editorial assessment, is to look at the bigger picture issues in your manuscript and point those out and recommend ways of fixing those bigger issues. So pace, characterization, style are some things that are pointed out during this process. The editor might point out grammatical errors if it shows up a lot, or if they feel like it, but it's not a necessary thing that they'll have to do. Their main purpose is to read through the story and make sure everything is flowing the way it's supposed to be, and make sure the message that you want to convey is being conveyed the way you intended to be conveyed. The characters are being developed. They're ensuring that the setting is right, the pacing is right, timelines, consistency, that kind of stuff is on point. Pretty much whatever will make your story a beautiful story, that's what they're looking at, the overall picture of it. And they'll point out to you if you need to do further editing, if you might need another stage in the editing process, and what you need to do to fix your novel to make it the way you want to make it. They'll keep your audience in mind, where you'll be publishing this novel. They keep everything in mind, and they'll point out as much as we could possibly point out about your manuscript to help you make that better. So that's the editorial assessment. Editing step number 2, not make or break kind of thing. You can get it if you want to. You could get as much editing, because there is never too much editing. The more polished your work is, the better it will be for you and for your readers. So the next editing stage possibly be the developmental editing, and this is called line by line editing in some places, or structural editing in other places. They pretty much mean the same thing, and it's an even greater look into your manuscript, and it's pointing out all the issues that they could possibly find with your manuscript, and they look at the structure and how to structure your novel the best possible way to make it smooth and concise. And it's very similar to the editorial assessment in what it looks at, but it goes even more in depth into your manuscript and point out every single thing that is wrong with it and how to make it better. Then the next editing process or editing stage you should look at or look into is copy editing stage, and that is very important. That is a vital step in the editing process. There has probably never been a novel that's been published that I know of that has never gone through the copy editing stage. Like, even if you missed the editorial assessment and you missed the developmental edit or the line by line edit, there needs to be a copy edit done. And that pretty much is the focus of that one. Is just like grammar, syntax. They'll point out inconsistency with your language, your UK versus US kind of spellings. It'll point out like if you don't have the right punctuations, like full stops and commas and quotation marks and the hyphens where the hyphens don't need to be, and it'll point out all of those errors and show you ways of fixing it and rephrasing your sentences to make sure it's smooth and it flows. And it goes into even greater detail in your novel, line by line, phrase by phrase, to make sure that everything is written smoothly and is being conveyed the way you want it to be conveyed. And it is going to be the making your novel the best that it could possibly be. So that needs to be done for sure before anything is published. It's like not even maybe I should get it. It is definitely a necessity. I cannot stress enough how important this is, and you should definitely get it if you're writing a book and you are looking to publish it. I mean, the other steps, the other editing process and other editing stage are very important also, but definitely this one is probably by far the most important. Then, number 4 is proofreading stage. So after you've done all of your editing and you had your copy editing done and you've revised and reshaped your novel, then, and it's ready to be published, then and only then you go through the proofreading stage. The proofreading stage, your book is printed, it's formatted the way it will be when you publish the book. It looks the way it's supposed to look in a book format, and you give these out to readers who love your genre, who maybe are writers or critique partners of yours, to read and point out all the errors they can spot on the page. Because sometimes when you format your book the way it's supposed to be published, then errors jump out a little bit more, and there will be a lot of errors that will jump out. That's why the editing stage is so important, because there will be things that you miss that you're like, how did I miss this? It's not the first page. How did I miss this? But you will miss things and other people will miss things, because none of us is perfect and we're not like robots. Like, we'll see a lot of the errors, but we'll miss some too, and that's why it's important to go through different stages of editing and do as much editing as possible to make sure that nothing is missed. And if something is missed, it's not going to be something that's so obvious that your reader's going to be like, what just happened? So that's the final stage of the editing process, and it's also very important and should also be done, because that's the final step that separates you and your readers. And you don't want the errors, that's in your book, or possible errors that's in your book, to be pointed out by your readers, because then that's not going to be a good experience for them or for you, being criticized. So definitely another important step, and you should go through, I would recommend going through this proofreading stage as many times as needed until the proofreaders are like, yeah, I don't see anything wrong with this. And then, and only then, should you decide to publish this book. So we went through those 4 critical stages of editing when you have your manuscript, which is editorial assessment, developmental edit, copy editing, and proofreading stage. So hopefully you guys have learned something today, and this will help you in editing your novels and publishing your novels someday. So thank you guys for watching. It's been a pleasure, and I'll see you again next time. Bye bye.